All right, next Saturday, UFC back in the Apex, and a new main event. Erin Blanchfield, originally supposed to take on Taila Santos, will now get Jessica Andrade in a fight that kind of feels like a title eliminator, a fight that kind of feels like a number one contenders fight. We will see. The main card, let's be honest, is not very good. This is one of the weaker UFC cards of the year. I mean, I would say I'm kind of excited for Jim Miller and Alexander Hernandez, and then of course the main event with Andrade and Blanchfield, but other than that, man, this card is not very good. So it is Super Bowl Sunday. I'm going to try to get through this one, I'll be honest, as quick as possible, because the Super Bowl starts in 90 minutes for me. So I'm going to try to get this one done as quick as possible. This video will probably be up during halftime, so we'll see. So Andrade and Blanchfield, though, this weekend from the Apex. And folks, if you haven't yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more UFC here on the channel. So our first fight is in the flyweight division. We have got Clayton Carpenter taking on Juan Camilo Ronderos. For Ronderos, it was interesting that he even got shot in the UFC, if we're being honest with ourselves. I mean, he looked good in his first 4 fights professionally in 2019. All of them, by the way, in 2019 in WXC. Wins 2 by decision and 2 by submission. Doesn't fight in 2020. Comes in 2021, gets a shot in short notice in the UFC against David Dvorak. He gets submitted by rear naked choke in the first round. This is likely, make or break time for Ronderos in the UFC. That fight was, again, 2 years ago against Dvorak. Now he's back taking on Clayton Carpenter. The thing for Ronderos, I'm not saying this is like 100% the end of his run in the UFC if he loses, but he'll be 4-2. It's likely they will not give him another shot unless he fights and works his way back up into this point in the UFC, because again, he's very young in his career. He's 27 years old. Last time we saw him fight, though, he was 25. Ronderos 5'4" flyweight. He'll be taking on Clayton Carpenter in this fight. For Carpenter, 6-0 professionally so far. His last win was a unanimous decision victory on the Contender Series against Edward Chairez. He was a minus 300 favorite in that fight, and Carpenter looks really good in that one. He switches it up a lot with the takedowns, with the striking as well. He does go in there, does drop the first round, but he comes back in the second and third, and Carpenter wins those 2, and now he gets a shot in the UFC. Ronderos honestly doesn't really impress me all that much. His one fight, again, in the UFC was a 2-minute fight where he gets submitted by David Dvorak. Dvorak gets him in a rear naked choke pretty simply and pretty quickly, and Dvorak's a guy, again, who doesn't get the most finishes. I mean, that's his only finish so far in the UFC. Dvorak started off 3-0 in the promotion. Now he is 3-2 with back-to-back losses to Mateus Nicolau and to Manel Kape. But yeah, I don't know what to expect out of Ronderos, because again, it was so weird that he got shot in the UFC in the first place, and then he gets in with a split decision victory over Eric Shelton, a guy who's 13-6, who's now 15-8. Shelton, of course, he was fighting the UFC a while ago. But man, it's just, yeah, it's weird that Ronderos is in this shot. I feel like he's here, or in the spot. I feel like he's here a little bit too early, if I'm being honest. I think he would have benefited a lot from coming on the Contender Series. But yeah, give me Carpenter here. I think Clayton Carpenter, again, is the better striker in this fight. I think he's way quicker on the feet. I think he's got better striking, and I think he's able to avoid the ground game out of Ronderos, because let's be honest, Carpenter's got a pretty good ground game as well. I mean, he's got a knee bar finish against Nick Clem back in 2021. I mean, the guy can get it done on the ground as well. It's not like Ronderos has an automatic advantage down there on the ground. Carpenter can definitely hang with Ronderos down there as well. I'm not too sold on Juan Camilo Ronderos, I'm being honest with you. I think Clayton Carpenter is the way better fighter. I think he's better on the feet. I think, honestly, on the ground, he might be better too. So give me the minus 295 favorite in Clayton Carpenter to beat Juan Camilo Ronderos. I don't think he's going to get a finish. I'm going to go by decision. I think Carpenter, again, just beats him everywhere. Give me Clayton Carpenter by unanimous decision. Interesting fight now between AJ Fletcher in the UFC debut for Themba Gorimbo. For Gorimbo, the former EFC world champion, the welterweight champion over there. He defended his championship, I believe, once over there in EFC, and then he goes on to UAE Warriors. He loses a fight back in 2021 and gets a shot in Fury FC, beats Julio Rodriguez by unanimous decision. No, not the baseball player for the Seattle Mariners. And then Gorimbo gets booked against Billy Goff in his first fight in the UFC. Goff has to withdraw from the fight that was supposed to take place on this card, and now AJ Fletcher comes in on short notice. And AJ Fletcher, the Ghost, 0-2 so far in the UFC. Losses to Matt Semmelsberger. They didn't do him any favors, I think, giving him Semmelsberger off the bat. He loses that fight by unanimous decision. Fletcher wins 2 rounds in that fight. The first round, really dominant wrestling round out of Fletcher, and then the second 2, Fletcher kind of just slowed down. Semmelsberger took over in terms of striking and in terms of all-around wrestling as well, including grappling, kind of just wore it out AJ Fletcher, and ended up winning the fight that way. And then Fletcher's second fight in the UFC, it's a loss to Angelosa. Back and forth fight. Fletcher is able to secure the takedown a little bit, but really, Angelosa was able to secure the takedowns. Fletcher wasn't able to get the fight on the ground. Angelosa in the third round really dominated with the wrestling. First and second rounds, I mean, kind of back and forth. Angelosa probably gets the first, you give Fletcher the second. It's a really good fight in Utah, UFC 278, that Losa does win, and now here comes AJ Fletcher in his third outing in the UFC, and likely his last if he cannot beat Gorimbo here, and he gets it, of course, against the former UFC world champion. For Themba Gorimbo, again, really good grappling off his, really good submission skills off his back. That's what I can say. I mean, the fights that I've watched at a Gorimbo, it's been fights where, and I've only watched a couple, I'll be honest with you, but the one that stood out for me was his last one in EFC. Gets taken down a couple times in the second round, throws up a triangle and gets it. But you know, that, I can definitely see a pathway in this fight if Themba Gorimbo gets taken down, if he can, you know, throw something off his back and catch AJ Fletcher in a submission. That can 100% happen. On the feet, I do like AJ Fletcher more, though. I think Fletcher is able to pressure Gorimbo a lot if this is what this fight gets to, and I think he's able to, you know, pressure him and push him back against the fence too. Because I'm not too sold on Gorimbo striking, because Gorimbo does go backwards a lot, and Gorimbo does get taken down. It's just a matter of can he get the submission off his back. I think Fletcher's good enough to the point where if he does take Themba Gorimbo down, he's not going to get caught in a sub, especially like a triangle or something off his back or off of Gorimbo's back. And I think on the feet, I don't think Gorimbo's got the power to outstrike or to knock out Fletcher. I don't think he's got the technical striking to outstrike AJ Fletcher for 15 rounds. I know Fletcher does get into a lot of these back and forth brawl type of fights where he does eat a lot to give a lot as well, which is fair, but I think he is better than Gorimbo here. I think he's able to close the distance. He's at minus 240 in this fight. Again, Fletcher's been taking on some really good competition in his first 2 fights in the promotion. I think he gets another really tough out here in his third one, but it feels like a fight that AJ Fletcher should win to finally get on the winning track in the UFC. So it could be AJ Fletcher to beat Themba Gorimbo. I think he avoids the submissions that Gorimbo might be able to throw up if Fletcher goes to the wrestling. I think through the striking, I think Fletcher's better as well. So it could be AJ Fletcher to win this fight by unanimous decision. Next up, Nazim Sadykhov takes on Evan Elder. You know, Elder, first fight in the UFC wasn't very good for him. Training out of Killcliff FC over there, of course, in Florida. For Elder, first fight in the promotion wasn't great. And, you know, it was something that we looked at for Elder before he fought Preston Parsons early in 2022, is that Evan Elder really hadn't fought anybody. He really hadn't taken on many opponents, if we're being honest, that were all that capable at the UFC level. I mean, he hasn't taken on a UFC caliber fighter until Preston Parsons. For Elder, of course, fighting a lot in FAC and Shamrock FC, again, didn't really see the level of competition that he should be taking on before he gets into the promotion. Because Preston Parsons, I don't think by any stretch of the imagination, is an elite UFC fighter. I think he's a good fighter. I think it's going to be an interesting fight when he does take on Trevin Giles next month. I think that's a really interesting fight. But you saw the way Preston Parsons put it on Evan Elder. I mean, it was not close. Right, Preston Parsons, he outstrikes Elder, he out-wrestles Elder. Elder could not get anything going in that fight. Parsons, every single round, was able to get Elder to the ground and was able to control Elder on the ground. I mean, hell, you got a 30-26 scorecard in that fight for Preston Parsons over Evan Elder. Now, it's a completely different style of fight, though, for Elder in his second time in the promotion, because Nazim Sadykhov is going to strike with you. I mean, this is a guy who's, you know, wants to go in there, he wants to strike. Fighting out of Longo Weidman MMA, of course, over there in Long Island, New York. Sadykhov's good. You know, his last 3 fights have all been by knockouts. The last one in the Contender Series, huge right hook finish, put down his opponent in the third round, gets the UFC contract. Fought before that in Fury FC as well. Sadykhov hits hard for a 155er. But I think, again, this is a more interesting matchup for Evan Elder because he doesn't have to worry about the wrestling out of Nazim Sadykhov. Sadykhov is not going to go in there, put on the wrestling boots, and try to out-wrestle Evan Elder. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Elder is going to get the type of fight that he does want and the type of fight that Evan Elder can't excel in. Now, the thing is, again, Elder, besides Preston Parsons, and really in any of his fights, Evan Elder has not taken on the level of striker that Nazim Sadykhov is. And that concerns me with Elder again. I mean, there's a reason why Sadykhov, I believe, is the biggest favorite in terms of Tapology votes. Odds-wise, he's only at minus 180 compared to Elder's plus 155. But on Tapology, you got Sadykhov at 93% picked over Evan Elder. And there's a reason for that. It's just because, again, Elder has not seen anybody on the level of Sadykhov, and especially in the striking realm, and especially with the power that Sadykhov does have for a 155-pounder. I think it's an incredibly difficult fight for Evan Elder in the second one of the promotion, especially considering how, again, Preston Parsons did outstrike him as well. I just think Elder's able to get hit too often, and especially against a guy like Sadykhov, who is going to hit you, and he's going to hit you very hard and put you down. I just think it's an incredibly tough fight for Evan Elder. Give me a first-round knockout win in Nazim Sadykhov's first fight in the UFC. Sadykhov will get it done. First-round knockout victory over Evan Elder. Surprised this fight's so early on the card, honestly, considering you have one of the bigger name value guys in the entire card in Ovince St. Preux, a former title challenger and a former opponent of John Jones, taking on Felipe Lins. Now, for Felipe Lins, I thought he would have already been out of the UFC by now, honestly. I mean, okay, I guess it feels like Lins has won more than he actually has. He's only won one fight. I feel like he's fought way more than he's actually, fought, considering I've talked about Felipe Lins so many times. In the span of 3 years in the UFC, Felipe Lins has had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 cancellations. That's crazy. I mean, he's at 9 canceled fights, and he's only fought 3 times. He lost to Andre Arlovsky back in 2020. It was a fight where Linz was, of course, coming off the PFL championship season. Goes in there, Arlovsky beats him. Loses to Tanner Boser. Boser knocks him out in the first round. He's booked against Dante Almeida's fight, doesn't happen. He's booked against Ben Rothwell, fight doesn't happen. Booked against Rothwell again, doesn't happen. Rothwell again doesn't happen. OSP doesn't happen. Azmat Mirzakhanov doesn't happen. Beats Marcin Prachnio by unanimous decision. Doesn't have a fight against Maxime Grishin that was scheduled. Was scheduling to Oven St. Preux at the last UFC event, or the Blachowicz and Ankalaev event. It didn't happen, and now here you go against Oven St. Preux once more. Is Felipe Lins actually going to fight? I don't know. I seriously don't know if this fight's actually going to happen or not, because, you know, who knows? And Linz's first 2 fights in the UFC get outstruck in both of them. He gets chinned in the second one. Arlovsky does this thing where he just touches up his opponent and doesn't knock him out, but beats him by decision, right? So that's how Linz's first 2 fights in the UFC go. His fight against Prachnio is different, though. It is, because Prachnio strikes him in the first round. You're thinking, okay, it's going to be more of this. Prachnio might eventually finish him. And again, you know, Linz is probably going 0-3. He's getting out the promotion. No, second round, okay, Linz does strike better. And Linz does actually outstrike Prachnio in the second round. And he's, you know, it's not PFL Felipe Linz, but he does look, you know, it's something to at least, you know, hang your head on, right? And then you go in the third round, and Felipe Lins out wrestles Marcin Prachnio. He finds what he needed in that third round, and he wins that fight by unanimous decision, winning the second and third rounds in that fight, and staying in the UFC and getting this opportunity against Oven St. Preux, who Oven St. Preux, for being honest, is a shell of his former self. I know he is coming off a victory over Shogun Rua, but Shogun Rua is especially a shell of his former self, especially in that fight in Arizona at UFC 274, where Oven St. Preux wins it by split decision. Before that, for St. Preux, you know, back-to-back losses to Tanner Boser and Jamal Hill. Of course, Jamal Hill at the time, we didn't know how good that guy was truly going to be. I believe at the time I picked Oven St. Preux to beat Jamal Hill. We won't talk about that, but I believe I did. But, you know, Jamal Hill is now the world champion. I didn't think anyone thought that was going to ever happen. Seriously, I didn't think Jamal Hill was ever going to be a world champ, but, you know, we're here. I guess we're here with that. I don't know what else to say. But, you know, St. Preux, we can excuse the Jamal Hill loss. The Tanner Boser fight, given it was at 265, and then Rua is at 205 again. Now, again, Felipe Lins back at 205, and Lins has fought at heavyweight in his own right, but this fight's going to be at light heavyweight with him and OSP. So, you know, I think St. Preux's got the power to knock out Felipe Lins, 100%. If he lands in the chin, he will knock out Lins. You know, if this fight goes 15 minutes, I think it will favor Lins. I don't think Lins really has got the power that he once possessed, if we're being honest, especially the guy that, you know, was knocking dudes out left and right in the PFL. So I don't think that guy is still around. And I think, you know, I mean, he was fighting like Josh Copeland in the Big Show, Jared Rochelle, but still, you know, I think it's an interesting fight. I think if Lins is going to win, he's going to have to incorporate some wrestling. Oven St. Preux hasn't been, you know, actually, Oven St. Preux has been pretty good against the takedown recently, so I don't think that's really a pathway for Lins. I think, honestly, Oven St. Preux is going to win this fight. I think he keeps it standing. I don't think Felipe Lins is able to do much wrestling-wise, and then on the feet, I think St. Preux is going to find that big shot. I think he's going to chin him just like Tanner Boser did. I think Lins is finally going to be his way out of the UFC after this fight. So, yeah, I'm going to be taking the upset here. Give me OSP to go in there and knock out Felipe Lins. I know OSP's washed, but still, I think he's able to beat Lins. Give me Oven St. Preux by first-round knockout. Okay, it's the UFC debut of Hussein Askhabov. He'll be taking on Jamal Emmers. Askhabov is 23-0 professionally, taking on Emmers, who's 18-6, and we haven't seen Jamal Emmers since that fight that he had against Pat Sabatini. You got to go back to August of 2021, so it's been over a year for Emmers. That was the fight where, you know, he had Sabatini in some danger early, but Pat Sabatini catches him in a heel hook. Sabatini, of course, wins the fight by first round submission. For Emmers, 1-2 in the UFC. The one win coming from that fight against Vince Cachero back in 2020, wins that one by unanimous decision. It was a fight that Emmers was a minus 550 favorite in. His first fight was the fight that, you know, got him going. He had the split decision loss to Giga Chikadze. He had a close fight. Chikadze, of course, he loses. Minus 175 favorite for Emmers in that fight. He does, of course, lose the fight. Because, again, Emmers did have some hype going, I think, into the UFC. Of course, you look at his last fight in LFA. It's an arm triangle win over Rafael Barbosa. It's a main event of LFA, LFA 81. Coming to the UFC with some momentum does Emmers, and now he's 1-2, and he'll be taking on a guy who's 23-0 here in Hussein Askhabov. For Askhabov, of course, 23-0. His fights outside the UFC aren't the greatest, and he has not fought in 3 years. That is the most concerning part out of this fight for Hussein, because, you know, the last one against the guy who's 3-0, wins by falling knee knockout in the first round. And for Askhabov, he does get finishes. I mean, 16 out of the 23 wins are by finish. But again, you just don't know what to expect out of this guy, considering, okay, you know, he's a Tiger Muay Thai guy, trained Tiger Muay Thai and ATT of course, in Coconut Creek, but you just don't know how good he is considering the guys he's fought. He's fought a lot in WWFC, is where he's been fighting most recently in Ukraine. Ukraine and I believe, I think it's just Ukrainian promotion, is WWFC, but, for Askhabov, he was booked twice in the UFC so far. First against Joe Anderson, Brito fight never happened on the Contender Series, and then he's booked in the UFC to take on Herbert Burns. Fight didn't happen as well in UFC on ABC 3 in Long Island, New York. So it's an interesting fight. It really is between Emmers and Askhabov. I'm going to be taking Askhabov to win this fight. I think he'll win it by submission. I think his grappling is really good, and I think his jiu-jitsu is going to make it tough on Emmers in this fight. So give me Hussein Askhabov to win this fight by, I'm going to go second round submission. I think he will be able to get Emmers down. I think he will be able to get a finish in this fight. So Askhabov goes to 24-0 with the second round submission win over Jamal Emmers. You hate to put the lock title on really any women's fight, just considering anything can happen in them, but really, I feel like this one's kind of a lock. I don't know why Lena Lansberg's still ranked. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. Why is she ranked? She's 40 years old. She's not won a fight since pre-pandemic. Her last win is in September of 2019. Given it's a really good win. Let's be honest, that's a good win. She's a plus 325 dog against Macy Chasson, and she goes in there in Denmark and wins the fight by unanimous decision. She out-wrestles Chasson. That's really what does it for her in that fight. She gets out-wrestled in the first by Chasson, but then the second and third, Lansberg's able to get those takedowns, and Lena Lansberg wins the fight 2-1. Anyways, Lansberg gets Mayra Bueno Silva in this fight, and it really, it's surprising to me that Lansberg's still ranked, but that just shows you how thin the division is. That shows you how thin bantamweight is, considering they just released Sarah McMahon because she couldn't fight Aspen Ladd. I don't know what McMahon is doing now. I'd assume maybe PFL. Aspen Ladd's no longer, of course, with the UFC. She just beat Julia Budd by split decision on the PFL Championship card, their last card in November, I think it was. So 135 is incredibly thin right now for the UFC. And it just shows a fighter who's 4-6 in Lena Lansberg, who has lost to two fighters who have now been cut by the promotion, Aspen Ladd and Sarah McMahon, and who has lost her last 3 fights and has not won a fight in 4 years, is still ranked at number 14, right? It just goes to show. Mayra Bueno Silva shouldn't have any problems in this fight. I don't think she should. Lena Lansberg's last 3 fights, where has she been beat? It's been on the ground in every single fight. Sarah McMahon out-wrestles her. She holds her on the ground for 14 minutes. Given that's supposed to happen, Sarah McMahon is an Olympic wrestler, but still, Lansberg showed no resistance in that fight. The Pani Kianzad fight, Kianzad does work the wrestling a lot. She takes over towards the third. Lansberg does stun her and knock her down in the second round, but other than that, Kianzad gets the fight done. She wins it she wins rounds 1 and 3, wins the fight 2-1. And then Lansberg's last fight, again, she did score another knockdown. She knocked down Carol Hossa, and that's something Lena Lansberg will always have. Her nickname's the Elbow Queen for a reason, I guess, but Lansberg will always possess power, and she can always knock you off your game, especially as a 135-pound fighter, something you're not going to expect out of some of these fighters at 135, especially in the women's weight classes. But other than that, Lansberg's pretty washed. Yes, she still does have power, and she can still, put you down with one punch. But other than that, what else does Lansberg really offer? She's not a really good technical striker at this point. She's not able to go really strike for strike with anyone. She can put you down, but those are few and far in between. In that Carol Hossa fight, Lansberg does win the first with that knockdown, even though she does get taken down for most of the round, but I would still give her the first round because of the knockdown. Second round, Carol Hossa comes back, out-wrestles her for 5 minutes. The third round, Carol Hossa beats her, outstrikes her, out-wrestles her. Carol Hossa wins the fight 2-1. That's really how it looks for Lansberg at this point. She can't really stay off her back, and it's very troubling for her once she does get down there. And where does Mayra Bueno Silva excel at? The ground game. She's really good down there. She can mix it up on the feet as well. As you look at her fights, against Wu Yannan, she doesn't get totally dominated against Manon Fiorot, even though she loses 30-26, but still, the Montana De La Rosa fight, she does get taken down, but she shows she can, strike with De La Rosa, who's probably going to get smashed by Tatiana Suarez next week, but just matchup-wise, this fight does not favor Lena Lansberg at all. There's a reason Bueno Silva is a minus 380 favorite. She's going to go in there and she's going to absolutely destroy Lena Lansberg. And rather than Lansberg's last 3 fights that have all ended by decision, I think Bueno Silva gets the finish in this one. So give me Mayra Bueno Silva to go in there, put a statement on Lena Lansberg in this fight, and give me Bueno Silva to win this one by second round submission. Getting it done at minus 380. Give me Mayra Bueno Silva. So in on short notice, here comes Alexander Hernandez taking on Jim Miller. Interesting, considering the fight Alexander Hernandez just had, 3 months ago? He takes a beating from Billy Quarantillo. 68 significant strikes in just the second round. He eats 87 of them from Quarantillo in that fight. It gets put on Hernandez in that one. I know, in the first round, Hernandez looked good with the wrestling, and sure, he probably wins the first round, but that second round, man, Hernandez cannot take Billy Q down. Billy Q keeps it on the feet, and Billy Q puts it on Hernandez. Hernandez looks, he's a mess at the end of it. He just gets dominated in that second round. And he gets knocked out, right? And what has Jim Miller been doing a lot of recently? Getting knockouts. Jim Miller's been getting, power shots. He's been stepping into his punches. He's been putting guys down. He's also been getting finishes too. Now, given, okay, it's a huge step up, and no matter how bad Hernandez has been recently, with the loss, even though Moicano's not bad, and really, but the thing is, we'll talk about this with Hernandez too. Jim Miller hasn't been beating the best guys, okay? He beats Eric Gonzalez, who Gonzalez is now, he's 0-2 in the UFC, lost to Jim Miller and Terrence McKinney, who'll be taking on Darius Flowers in his next fight. Flowers making his UFC debut. I think Darius Flowers is going to win that fight. And then, Gonzalez, so that was Miller's first win of his winning streak. Next is Nicholas Mota. All right, Nicholas Mota, he did win his last one by beating Cameron Van Camp by first round knockout, but the guy's 1-1 in the UFC. I think Ignacio Bahamondes is going to get Mota when they fight in a couple months, but still, that's not a horrible win, but it's just, again, Mota is an entry-level guy in the UFC, and then his last win in the winning streak for Jim Miller is Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Of course, Cowboy no longer fights, and it was the end of a Cowboy losing streak that, went like 8 fights, so, right? It's just, you don't know how to gauge it for Jim Miller. But Jim Miller has been looking good recently. But again, it's been against guys who are entry-level UFC guys. Same can be said about Alexander Hernandez, though. Hernandez hasn't beaten anyone who is, well on their UFC career either. I mean, Hernandez's last wins in the last 4 years is one of them. There's one win in the last in the last 3 years. It's the win over Mike Breeden. Oh, he's got 2. Chris Gutierrez, forgot about that. But both these guys, again, Gutierrez and Breeden are entry-level guys in the UFC, let's be honest with ourselves. Chris Mocker is a little bit more progressed in his UFC run than Breeden is. Breeden's 0-2, having lost to Natan Levy in his last fight, but Hernandez knocks him out in the first round. He knocks out Gritzmacher in the first round as well. But then when Hernandez gets guys who aren't Gritzmacher and Breeden, he loses to Drew Dober in the second round by knockout. He loses to Thiago Moises by unanimous decision. Moicano submits him in the second round. Billy Q puts it on him and knocks him out in the second round, right? So it's just hard to gauge where Hernandez is at this point. I mean, he's never going to be at that point that he was after he beat Beneil Dariush in, 42 seconds, and then he beats Oliveira Aben-Mercier, who's now the PFL champion, and then he runs into Cowboy and he gets head kicked and he loses all of his momentum and he gets knocked out, right? Hernandez is not that same guy anymore. And I think it really makes for an interesting fight because I think Jim Miller, his strikings look really good. And I think if Jim Miller can really step into some of his shots here, there's a chance he knocks out Alexander Hernandez, especially after the fight Hernandez just had, and it only being 3 months ago. That's concerning if you're looking at Hernandez from this fight. Now, again, there's a pathway to victory again for Hernandez, too. It's going to be through the takedowns, I think. Yes, and I think he can outstrike Miller, too. I think definitely because Jim Miller's old. He's, 39 years old. And if Hernandez can stay on the outside, avoid the big power shots that Jim Miller can throw, I think he should be able to touch up Miller. But I think, really, he's going to have to try to wrestle Jim Miller without getting stuck in a submission because Miller will always have those submissions. He will always throw them up. So Hernandez is going to have to avoid that if he does take it to the ground. But on the feet, again, I think Hernandez should have a decent shot. But man, honestly, I'm going to take the underdog here. I'm taking Jim Miller at plus 190. I'm taking the 39-year-old in Jim Miller to win this fight because I just don't like, Hernandez coming back 3 months after the fight against Quarantillo. I don't like that. I really don't. I think on regular, and also it's on short notice too for Hernandez. In normal circumstances, I'd take Hernandez. In this type of circumstance, though, with Miller already preparing and training for a fight, and Hernandez coming in on short notice, plus Hernandez's shin being whacked because of the loss to Quarantillo just 3 months ago, I think he's going to be really chinny in this fight, and I think Jim Miller is going to be able to set him down. So give me Jim Miller to extend his, his record with most wins in the UFC. I think he knocks out Alexander Hernandez in the first round. Jim Miller again extends the winning streak now to 4. Give me Miller again by first round knockout. Okay, so I don't know why this is on the main card and OSP and Felipe Lins isn't, because you got a guy, Marcin Prachnio, who I'm surprised is a favorite at minus 115 considering his last fight was that aforementioned Felipe Lins fight that he loses by unanimous decision, and he's taken on Will Knight. But again, Prachnio lost to Lins, and Will Knight hasn't been the greatest. This guy's lost his last 2. I mean, I think his best win to date is the Alonzo Menafield win. I know Menafield just had the draw against Jimmy Crute, and that still, I don't think that's a horrible fight for Menafield. Of course, he doesn't lose to Crute, and he goes 3 rounds in enemy territory and has that fight go the distance against Crute. But now you get Will Knight against Marcin Prachnio, and Knight's on a 2-fight losing streak. Prachnio lost Felipe Lins. He lost his first 3 fights in the UFC where he looked absolutely horrible. He's got that Sam Alvey fight where he's talked about where he's got Alvey rocked and then he walks in, hands down, just doesn't even have his hands up, and Alvey just rocks him, socks him, and knocks out Prachnio in the first round. Then Prachnio runs into Magomed Ankalaev. Okay, it's going to happen to you. He gets knocked down the first round. And slow Mike Rodriguez, though, beats him. That's the one. It's like, okay, I mean, slow Mike, no longer in the UFC, fights in CES. Picked up a win by first round knockout against Jeremy May in the summer of last year. I don't know what, honestly, I don't know what Rodriguez is going to do after this. But anyways, Prachnio gets another shot on a 3-fight losing streak. I was surprised, and he beats Khalil Roundtree. Yeah, he beat Roundtree. That was interesting. I didn't think that was going to happen. He goes in there and he outstrikes Khalil Roundtree and looks really good in doing so. Prachnio wins the first, wins the second, wins the third, I would say. I believe the judges gave one round to Roundtree. I don't really see it though. And anyways, Prachnio comes back after that and knocks out or finishes Ike Villanueva. Ike Villanueva is horrible. He sits him down with a body kick, but Ike Villanueva, again, not a UFC caliber guy. He beat Vinicius Morea in his one fight, but he went 1-4 in the promotion. Went 1-5, losing to guys like Chase Sherman, Jordan Wright, Marcin Prachnio, Nikolai Negamariano, and Tyson Pedro. Okay, right. I mean, Villanueva wasn't very good. Prachnio after that again loses to Felipe Lins, what we just talked about. For Will Knight, again, 3-3, first fight in the promotion, being that win over Alexa Kammer, beats him by unanimous decision. Stipe's guy and Kammer from Ohio loses to Dawoon Jung after that, or Dawoon Jung now, by unanimous decision, gets taken down at will, beats Fabio Charant, knocks him out, beats Alonzo Menafield by unanimous decision, really put the power on Menafield on that one. You're thinking, okay, maybe Knight can get going after that. He misses weight by a pretty fair margin against Maxime Grecian, fights at 205, weighs in at 218, my goodness, and then loses to Devin Clark after that, gets knocked down in the third round, by the way, lost to Grecian as well by unanimous decision. I don't know what to say about this fight, honestly. I'm going to take Will Knight. I think Knight can find the power and beat Prachnio. I just hope it's over quick. That's how I'm going to put it. I have zero expectations for this fight. I really do. I don't think this fight's all that great, for being honest with ourselves. I think Prachnio, again, beat some guys who weren't very good. I think a Roundtree fight, that's the outlier. I think Roundtree just had a bad night, if we're being honest. Like, Villanueva's not very good. And other than that, I don't think Prachnio's very good. I don't think Will Knight's very good either. I just think Will Knight's got a crap ton of power. And that's what he's going to be able to show in this fight. I think Will Knight's really able to sit into his punches and really just extend and put down Prachnio at -105. Hell, you might as well. Don't actually put money on this fight, but I'm gonna take Will Knight at -105. I think he's gonna be able to win this fight. Give me Will Knight to win by first round knockout. I don't think Prachnio is very good at it. I don't think Will Knight's very good, but I think the power's gonna be too much. Give me Will Knight by first round knockout. Heavyweight fight now, and it's of course a classic UFC Apex heavyweight fight, which, I mean, of course, it's gotta be on the main card. Josh Parisian taking on Jamal Pogues. So for Parisian, he's part of this endless gauntlet that the UFC's got at 205 with a bunch of heavyweights who are low-level heavyweight fighters who keep fighting each other. I'm talking about, here we go, let's do it. Parker Porter, he just lost to Justin Tafa, but then Parker Porter also lost to Josh Parisian. But actually, hold on, Parker Porter has some wins in the UFC because he beat Alain Badeau, who also lost to Josh Parisian, but he beat Chase Sherman, who I think has fought Josh Parisian as well, Parker Porter beat Josh Parisian. Chase Sherman has fought Jake Collier, who's low level, who also, though, beat Jared Vandera, who's low level, but lost to Waldo Cortez Acosta, who's actually not low level, but just fights all the low level guys, but he's kind of low level. And then we forgot Alain Badeau, who's lost to a bunch of guys. He lost to Rodrigo Nascimento, who's no longer in the UFC because he got suspended. It's just the endless circle of the bad heavyweight fights that they keep on giving to us. You forgot about Dontel Mays as well, who, oh my goodness, I forgot about him because he beat Josh Parisian, he beat Roque Martinez, but he lost to Rodrigo Nascimento, but he was supposed to fight Justin Tafa, fight never happened, and he's gonna go fight Augusto Sakai, who I know Sakai has lost his last 4 fights, but he's not losing to Dontel Mays. And then that's just the endless cycle of the bad heavyweight fights that keep on going and going. And now, okay, introducing Jamal Pogues. All right, is Pogues going to be part of the bad heavyweight roundabout? I don't think so, because I actually think he's going to beat Josh Parisian. I mean, everyone kind of it feels like he's going to. Now, Pogues fought twice in the Contender Series, won both of them. Last one being against Paulo Hanato Jr., winning by unanimous decision. And Pogues looked good in that fight. I liked what I saw out of him in that fight. He technically does get outstruck in that fight, but 10-point scoring system. Of course, he drops the second where he just kind of takes it off, for being honest. But wins the first, wins the third, and that's what gives Jamal Pogues the victory in that one. He'll be getting Josh Parisian in this one. For Parisian, honestly, hasn't been that bad in the bad heavyweight gauntlet. He's 2-2, but then you look at the guys he's fought in the bad heavyweight gauntlet, and then it's like, oh, okay, I see why. I just checked. Roque Martinez apparently still fights. He beat Yokawa McGregor in 2021 or 2022 in November. Anyways, Parisian's 2-2 in the bad heavyweight gauntlet. He loses to Parker Porter. He beats Roque Martinez barely by split decision. He loses to Don'Tale Mayes, where he gets, I believe that was a fight, yeah, where Don'Tale Mayes humped him. And then he beats Alain Baudot. Alain Baudot knocks him down in the second round. Parisian comes back. Alain Baudot just doesn't know what wrestling is. I got a good laugh watching this fight on the Saruki and Gamrot card. Don't know why this was on a main card, by the way. But Alain Baudot, he's got Parisian in trouble in the first round, knocks him down, and then he just doesn't know what to do once the fight gets to the ground. And now you get Parisian and Pogues. Again, it's a bad heavyweight fight, but I think Jamal Pogues is better. But it's, again, part of the gauntlet where a lot of these guys don't get finishes. It's just going to be Jamal Pogues touching up Josh Parisian for 15 minutes, and I think he'll win the fight. Neither guy really possesses that insane power that you see at heavyweight, but I think Jamal Pogues is just better. I do like his striking all around over Josh Parisian. And yeah, give me Jamal Pogues at minus 225 to win the fight. I think he is better than this, endless abyss of bad heavyweights that the UFC does have. So give me Pogues to win this one by unanimous decision. What are we doing here? Why is this a co-main event? I mean, I get it from the UFC standpoint that someone here will likely get knocked out, but if we're being honest, actually, Zach Pauga doesn't really get too many knockouts, but in this circumstance and in this fight, okay, Pauga will probably get a knockout if he wins, considering Jordan Wright does not have a chin. Jordan Wright cannot take a punch. It's just how it is. Jordan Wright also throws very hard too, and Jordan Wright can get knockouts of his own, but he's 2-4 in the UFC. Win over Ike Villanueva. Win over Jamie Pickett as well, and that goes to show you something. That was Jordan Wright's by far best win, where he knocks out Jamie Pickett I believe that was in Houston. On the Oliveira Chandler card, he wins by knockout in the first round. He shouts at his girlfriend Matilda after the fight as well. Again, Matilda, which is crazy. Joe Rogan had a good laugh at that one. And since then, he lost to Bruno Silva, lost to Marc-Andre Barriault, and lost to Dusko Todorovic by second round knockout. It's weird. I didn't think Wright would still be in the UFC. I didn't think he would still be here, honestly. I'm surprised. And now we get Zach Pauga, a guy who got second in the Ultimate Fighter, who loses to Mohammed Usman in the final in a fight that he was definitely the favorite in, but he doesn't win. Mohammed Usman knocks him out in the second round. Because the first round, though, Pauga looks really good. He's outstriking Usman. He's quicker than Usman. That's what kind of we thought. Because Pauga was a light heavyweight who was just fighting heavyweight to get on the Ultimate Fighter show. And you thought, okay, if Pauga wins, he's probably going down no matter what. Even if he wins the Ultimate Fighter at heavyweight, it's something that a lot of guys do. I mean, Macy Chasson did it before at 145. Rashad Evans has done it in the past. That's what happens in the Ultimate Fighter. But Pauga loses. He gets knocked out by Usman. And we have not seen Usman since. That fight was back on the Santos Hill card in the summer of last year. And Mohammed Usman has not been booked. I mean, where is he? But Pauga was a minus 300 favorite in that fight. He didn't win, obviously. And now he's going to get Jordan Wright. And to fight that, in all honesty, Zach Pauga should win. I think he will win. I'm going to take him by second round knockout. Not because I think Pauga is going to have the crazy power. It's just that Jordan Wright really can't take a punch. And I think eventually it will be an accumulation of damage that Pauga will eventually sit down Jordan Wright, and Pauga will eventually win in the second round. But Jordan Wright can win too. I'm not I wouldn't put it past him. I think Jordan Wright, even though he's not the greatest and he kind of just sticks his chin up right in the air, he's just kind of a punching bag to the face. He kind of just blocks punches with his face, the Chase Hooper method. But I think Pauga is going to be able to hit him there. But if Wright does, throw hard, which he does a lot, it's risk it for the biscuit on the feet for Jordan Wright. He'll take one, he'll eat one to take one, or eat one to throw one, excuse me. He's got the capability of knocking out Pauga too. I wouldn't be surprised if he does. I think at plus 235, I think it's worth maybe putting a little bit on Jordan Wright, just considering the odds, because I think this fight is just so crazy to the point where no one knows what's going to happen because it's two low-level guys in a co-main event spot on ESPN. But, right? So I think Wright's actually got a chance to win. I don't think he's going to, because I think Pauga is a better all-around striker, right? I think he's better volume striker, better technical striker, but power-wise, I do like Jordan Wright. And that's what does give me a little bit of hope for the Beverly Hills Ninja in Jordan Wright doing this fight, is if he is able to land a big shot like what Mohammed Usman did against Zach Pauga in the summer of last year. I'm still not taking Jordan Wright to win this fight. I'm taking Zach Pauga to win by unanimous, actually no, by second round knockout. But I'm just saying there is a possibility that Wright could win the fight too. But anyways, give me the Ultimate Fighter runner-up here in Zach Pauga. I think in his first fight at light heavyweight, he will win. I think he will, again, after an accumulation of damage, eventually TKO, or I'll actually say eventually knock out Jordan Wright. Jordan Wright doesn't block punches very well, and he doesn't eat punches very well. So give me Zach Pauga to win. He's going to win this fight by second round knockout over Jordan Wright. Main event time, by far the toughest fight in the career so far of Erin Blanchfield, a huge step up from Tyler Santos. I'm not going to lie, it's Jessica Andrade, because Andrade has been very good recently. I mean, since her loss to Shevchenko, 3 straight wins. She has won 4 of her last 5. and she's been on a roll. Jessica Andrade looks very good. Erin Blanchfield gets this fight, though. And Blanchfield, again, undefeated in the UFC. She's 10-1 in her professional career. Her only loss being her 4th pro fight to Tracy Cortez in a close fight that you can make the case maybe she wins, but loses by split decision. But anyways, Erin Blanchfield finally the step up, and it is a huge step up. Because she goes from Molly McCann to Jessica Andrade. My goodness. Jessica Andrade, 231 significant strikes against Lauren Murphy in her fight at UFC 283 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It's not like Jessica Andrade don't got power. It's just that I guess Lauren Murphy is just a walking punching bag that can take all that damage. Because you seen Andrade knock out Calvillo. She finished Kuchagan with a hook to the body. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, who's still fighting. Rose Namajunas, that was a slam, but still. She finishes Lemos by first round submission with the standing arm triangle choke. It's not like she doesn't have power. That was more just Lauren Murphy being able to take a punch. Okay. She gets Erin Blanchfield now. And it's an interesting fight. Because Blanchfield, by far, has not seen anyone to the level of Jessica Andrade. Tyler Santos was going to be a step up, but now Jessica Andrade is even more of a step up. And yes, Andrade is taking this on short notice, but she just fought less than a month ago, so I wouldn't be too concerned about A, her conditioning, and B, her fight strategy and just her ability of, being ready for a type of fight like this, right? Because you know what Erin Blanchfield is going to bring. And most likeliness, she's going to bring the wrestling, she's going to try to take you down, she's going to try to submit you. Yes, Blanchfield does have some striking, but it's not going to be the level of Jessica Andrade. She will get outstruck on the feet 100% by Andrade. It's just a matter of if she can take Andrade down, because not many fighters are able to do it, right? I think only 3 UFC fighters have ever been able to take down Jessica Andrade, and Andrade has had, 23 fights in the UFC. It's crazy. But the only fighters who've been able to take down Andrade are, all the way back in 2015, Raquel Pennington, Tisha Torres in 2018 in a fight where Andrade took her down 10 times, but Torres took her down twice, Valentina Shevchenko, and that's it. It's only been 3 fighters. No one else has been able to, Liz Carmouche back in 2013 too. But, man, Andrade does not get taken down, and that's something that's essential for Erin Blanchfield to win this fight. She needs a takedown to beat Andrade, but Andrade is so physically strong in there where it's just going to be tough for Blanchfield to drag this fight down to the ground. It's just going to be. Andrade is so good in terms of strength and in terms of keeping fights standing or just dictating where the fight does play out. Because if Andrade wants it on the ground, most fights, she'll get it on the ground. Or if she wants it on the feet, she'll get it on the feet. I mean, we're going to see a lot of things out of Erin Blanchfield in this fight. We're going to see her willingness to take a punch, her willingness to throw one to eat one as well, because she's going to take some damage fighting Jessica Andrade. We're going to see her chin. We're going to see her striking game as a whole, and we're going to see truly how good of a grappler and a wrestler she is. We are going to find out everything about Erin Blanchfield in this fight, because if she can beat Jessica Andrade and she can do it dominantly and be impressively, then there's a chance that she could beat Valentina Shevchenko in her next fight. We'll see how Shevchenko fights Alexa Grasso, but the Shevchenko that lost or barely beat Tyler Santos was not all that impressive. And we'll see if Blanchfield has the strategy and the game plan to beat Valentina. That's a story for another day, though. I'll get into that if Erin Blanchfield ever does fight Valentina. And for Jessica Andrade, huge opportunity for her, because she'll likely fight for the championship next if she beats Erin Blanchfield. I think she will. I think, again, they don't like to give fighters rematches a lot, especially against a dominant champion like Shevchenko, especially when there are other fighters that could get a championship fight, like a Manon Fiorot, and I could definitely see that. But, you gotta give it to Andrade if she wins this fight. You have to, because she's on a 3-fight winning streak. She's beat everyone else at the top of the weight class, and also she's beat Amanda Lemos, the top fighter at 115, right? She's beat everybody, and I think she should deserve it, and she should get it over Kaylin Kuchagan. She should get it over Manon Fiorot. She should, because I know she lost, but how are you gonna keep denying Andrade, especially after taking a fight on 1 week's notice in a main event spot against a fighter who has not lost in the UFC, in Erin Blanchfield? Right? I mean, it's such a meaningful fight. This is a huge fight. It's a title eliminator. It's a #1 contenders fight at flyweight between Andrade and Blanchfield. Fight just got announced yesterday on the broadcast for, of course, Makhachev and Volkanovski, a fight which, by the way, I thought Volkanovski won. I'm just saying 2-3-5. I thought Alexander Volkanovski should be the double champ right now. Should be the GOAT, but it's fine. But Andrade just took it. She's at a -160 favorite for Blanchfield, coming back at you at +135. My official prediction, though, is Jessica Andrade to win the fight. I don't think Blanchfield's able to hang on the feet, because I don't think she's going to be able to take Andrade down. That's what I think. And it's really going to show how good Valentina's wrestling is, because Valentina was able to take down and hold down Andrade well. She's able to get her in a crucifix. It's going to show you how good Valentina's wrestling is. Her striking may not be what it once was, considering what Taila Santos was able to kind of accomplish against her. But wrestling-wise, it's going to show you the different level that Valentina's on. And if Valentina fought Blanchfield, why I'd take Valentina? Because I think Valentina would able to do the same thing I think Andrade is going to be able to do to Blanchfield. Keep the fight standing, not let Blanchfield take you down, and then outstrike her when the fight is get on the feet. And I don't know how Blanchfield's going to react to the power of Andrade. I don't think she's going to react like Lauren Murphy will and be able to take 200 significant strikes in 3 rounds. So I think Andrade is going to get a finish. It's rare you see main event finishes for UFC women's fights. There's only been one, I think, in the last 25, and it's Jessica Andrade submitting Amanda Lemos, but I think Andrade gets the second. I think she's going to go in there, and I think she's going to knock out and finish Erin Blanchfield in the 3rd round. I think when Lauren Murphy was barely surviving, that's going to be the point where Andrade is able to finish Blanchfield. I think it's by far the toughest fight of Blanchfield's career to date, and I'm not saying this is the end of her title aspirations because she's only going to get better, but in this particular spot, I like Jessica Andrade more. Give me Andrade, the former strawweight champion, to get another chance at the flyweight championship. Jessica Andrade beats Erin Blanchfield in the main event by 3rd round TKO. So folks, thank you for watching our Andrade versus Blanchfield full card preview and predictions. We'll be back next week for hopefully the final UFC Apex card. I know they just said that they're trying to keep the Apex involved with things, but hopefully it's the last one for fight nights. I'm cool with it being in the Contender and the Ultimate Fighter and Power Slap, but hopefully the final Apex card, Nikita Kirillov versus Ryan Spann next week again from the Apex. You've got 13 fights in that card and a huge one between Tatiana Suarez and Montana De La Rosa as well. Then after that, John Jones Citadel. God, oh my goodness, March 4th cannot come quick enough. But folks, thank you for watching. Make sure that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure you leave a like if you did enjoy the video. And folks, thank you for watching, and Mamba forever.